Hey guys, David back again here. As a semi-professional player, part of my job is learning what literally every deck in the game does. This can be hard at times, especially for the decks that you don't really enjoy, or the things that you just generally don't like interacting with, like grinding blue-yellow Nami, for example. But generally, I enjoy this game, and sometimes I find decks that I really gel with. I was originally just going to play about maybe 100 games of Yellow Kid, get an idea of what the deck does on curve, how it beats other decks, what I generally need to look out for, the deck list, all of that general stuff. But what I have found is probably one of my new favorite decks. It is a control deck that, through trashing life, just gains ridiculous advantage, especially having probably the most overpowered yellow card at the moment at this point in time, being a mix of Kikunojo and Borsalino all in one, which is absolutely ridiculous. It is basically near the level of the Rayquaza combo that we had earlier, and generally I've been having a lot of fun with this. I'm generally not a fan of just uploading sim games. I feel like it's a little low effort at times. Obviously, I know a lot of creators do put a lot of effort into it, but I would love in this one occasion to share with you a game or two of Kid because I am absolutely in love with how it plays, and it gives me a really good opportunity to teach you about different scenarios that you may encounter with this deck. Obviously, alongside this, we're still going to do the very traditional tier list, which I do want to build up. I got a grand total of something like 50 views on the other video, but I'm a man of my word. I will be ranking all of the new cards, including that one, and we will be starting with Eustass Captain Kid as the yellow starter deck. The first card we'll be looking at is Killer, of the famous Kid and Killer combination. Killer is incredibly powerful. This is actually probably up there with some of the best cards that were printed in all the starter decks. I still think that the first best is definitely the Straw Hat stage, Thousand Sunny, but this card is just crazy. This card can heal a life anytime, anywhere, for any reason, as long as it's your turn. This means on your 4-Don turn, you can even go up to 6 life just off the bat if you play this card. It's just insanely powerful. You can use it in combination with Borsalino, and then your leader ability to gain 2 blockers and 2 life for 9 Don, which is absolutely wild. This card also has an incredible trigger, and I mean incredible. You can stack this into life with your 7-cost lore, and it basically allows you to heal, gain a Don on leader, summon a 7-cost 9,000 and a 4-cost 6,000, all for 7 Don. And that's not even taking into account that the lore gains blocker from your leader effect. Being able to be a Kikunojo on the worst of days and a better Borsalino on the best of days, this card is S tier. If this card was in any way generic, this would be like the best card, period. Like the best card. Fortunately, it's only locked to Kid, but Kid is going to do everything in his power to abuse this as much as possible. The second new card we will be looking at is Barto. I like Barto. This Barto is a 1-cost 2k that has 1000 power and allows you to trash 1 supernova card to draw 2 cards. This is a card neutral card, which is extremely important to note because it means that you can basically use this as a pseudo mini searcher. Specifically, this is better when you're trying to run lots of cards that aren't supernova typing. This card is pretty much in direct competition with the 1-cost searcher event, meaning that you need to choose between having a body, which is also counter, or the ability to look at top 5 and add a supernova. This means that running Barto, you can find pieces that you can't find with the event. The most important, I would say, is Borsalino, but depending on what you're playing, you can even play like a trigger heavy build, playing things like 8-cost Teach, and just generally being able to find things that you couldn't otherwise find. For that reason, this card, I think, rather than being a powerhouse, is more of a versatility tool in general. It's for that reason that I'm giving it an A tier. I strongly believe that it could be B tier, and I'm not sure how many people will actually play this depending on how the meta pans out. If we do see more strong generic yellow support, maybe in OP17, then we can definitely look at if this card will be worth it just to be able to draw into non-Kid Pirate / Supernova cards, which is something that the Searcher event doesn't currently allow. The next card we'll be looking at is the Cavendish. This is a 3-cost 4000 power character with 2000 counter, importantly, that has the ability, on KO, discard a card and add a life to your hand. This does initially seem strong, but there is not really any stage in the game where this is better than anything else you can play. And being a 3-cost 4000 power means that it's not really going to be useful attacking either, especially in the vast majority of matchups, and even more so your harder matchups where your opponent is not just going to be at 5k power, meaning you're going to have to devote a lot of resources to get any value out of this thing. The effect is also pretty weak in comparison to Killer, as well as just the general other healing tools we have, such as Lore and Borsalino, and just in general, it doesn't really do that much. That being said, it doesn't really have a downside either, and for this reason, I think that this card is a B tier. It is a 2k, which is searchable by both the Supernova event and the Supernova Searcher in Luffy. It generally can have use in very, very, very niche situations, and I think that despite it not really doing anything well, it doesn't have any overwhelming, obvious weaknesses that bring it down to be a worse card. Okay, so coming in next, we have the 2k Apoo. This character is a 4-cost 4k and a 2000 power counter, but none of that really matters because you are never playing this card pretty much. This card, though, is insanely strong because of its trigger. That allows you to draw one card and then become a 7000 power base leader until the end of the turn. You can stack this with Lore, and it basically insulates you against most aggro decks. You're going to be a 7000 power leader, card neutral in hand, while having a blocker and, as we will talk about soon, also having additional ways to defend yourself against aggro matchups. This card is an easy S tier for the deck. This card also has some niche applications in GY Lore, which is a personal favorite deck of mine that I think not a lot of people have really figured out yet and are still messing around with. I know it's something I want to check out in the future, but I haven't had the time to just yet, and I don't want to give any half-baked information to this video. So for now, just keep a note that GY Lore might be able to do some crazy stuff with this at some point later down the line. And then that brings us to the main event, the 6-cost Eustass Captain Kid. This card is amazing. This card, while basically looking a little strange at first, can basically be broken down into two really important effects. The first effect allows you to flip a life card face up in order to attach one rested Don to your leader. This does seem counterintuitive at first, as it does take away your leader effect activation requirement. However, when used in combination with other cards, you can do some really heinous things. The first and most important thing being the combo with Urouge. Basically allowing you to flip your Don back and forth repeatedly, gaining the best of both worlds, activating both cards, and then resetting you back to a neutral slate, which you can then use for your leader ability at the end of the turn. You can also choose to completely forego using your leader ability due to the second part of this card's effect. By flipping down a card in the top of your life, you can redirect an attack to one of your Eustass Captain Kids with 5000 power or more. The notable targets for this are this card itself, the 8-cost Kid, and funnily enough, your leader. That is right. Kid, who has the terrible downside of being starved, has a way to directly make the opponent swing into his own life. This is a card that fixes so much about the matchup, so much that it's hard to even talk about how many different scenarios this enables for the deck in general. This is what really separates Kid as a specialist deck. This card's only weakness is being removed, and you just so happen to have two of the best anti-removal tools in all of the game that both affect this card specifically. While I do think that this card still won't survive against an experienced Enel player, for example, I still think that this is one of the strongest cards in the deck by far, and even sacrificing some of the power of your curve to play out this card can be worth it depending on the situation. Overall, this card is also an S tier, and I can't wait to show you all of these cards in action in the next coming game. Okay, we are back. OBS just stopped recording 5 times in a row for some reason, so sorry about this being a little bit delayed. So, in this hand, we are looking pretty solid. We have Badge for 2, which is really important to insulate against Grab Blade. We have Killer, which is really good on curve. We have Eustass, which is really good on curve on 8. And we generally have search power to find anything that we are missing on our 6 Don turn, which is really, really, really good. The reason we play Bedge out here instead of Luffy and Bartolomeo searching for the Eustass Kid is because we won't have an opportunity later in the game to play out the Bedge without sacrificing a pretty hefty amount of our curve. For example, if we play it next turn, we can't play Killer. If we play it on 6, we can't play the 6 cost Eustass. And if we play it on 8, we can't play that Eustass Captain Kid. And that also means that we will be absolutely devastated by Grab Blade and completely lose. And so we have to play it now. Now here I'm considering if I am going to basically block the attack or if I'm going to counter. Because of the horrific threat of Isho, I decide that I would rather have 2 cards ripped out of my hand by Isho than counter so quickly, because he can easily punish me with a Bluegrass into swing, which would put me at 4 cards in hand with not much I can do, and basically allow him to gain constant advantage. Because I have no real way of dealing with Bluegrass, I actually prefer to be hit by Isho here, and so I basically set him up for it perfectly. I also have 2 cards that I am more than happy to pitch from my hand, being the Lore and the Bartolomeo. I have 2 Luffys, which can search any card I need, as well as a late game curve piece, which I can use and not need to rely on the wall. Additionally, the Bartolomeo, which would be out of Find Me Borsalino, is pretty unnecessary here because we're not going down on life anytime soon. Okay, here we didn't see the curve, and I decided to grab the Killer as a way to prolong the game, as this is going to be a battle of attrition, and I already have 1 Kid and a Hawkins. Even if he wants to attack me, I have 2 blockers, 6 life, and my curve all sorted for the next turn, and as we see here, I can then do a double Hawkins play after, with the Bedge on the field, meaning he will have to kill them to get rid of them, and he has no way of boosting his leader above 5,000 power, meaning these guys are just going to chip at him every single turn. Even an Aramaki cannot save him here. The opponent, playing perfectly on curve, goes for the Garp and then the Kuzan, which allows him to stop one of my cards from attacking, basically establishing a board while slowing me down, but doing very little to replenish his hand if he were to see a Sakazuki at this point in time, because he could just slowly accrue advantage while pressuring me down. But because he doesn't see that, it puts him in a weird spot. If he attacks, he replenishes my hand, which he chooses to do. He does try bait me into blocking with the Killer here, but if he does, he puts a Don on Isho and then attacks 8 into 4, making me either have to sacrifice my Bedge, which will put me in a Grab Blade situation, or force me to let it go, which I really don't want to do because this is a game where I need to be pinging him for as much damage as possible all the time. But we are able to very easily just play out the Eustass. The opponent also choosing not to attack my life leaves me in a dangerous situation where I cannot use my leader ability. But it also means that I have a lot of life, a lot of board, and my Bedge still on the field. It's going to be very hard for him to target down both of these. My opponent here tries to go for a cheeky split, attempting to make me waste counter on this Killer so that he could later target down my Eustass. However, I am not that dumb. Rather, any counter I could be using to defend my Killer can instead be trying to defend Eustass instead, which is exactly what we're going to do. I think in this situation, if he overcommits too much Don to swing 9 or 7 at the Eustass again, he is going to be in a situation where he can't really develop his board, which really sucks for him, and if he fails, I simply get to swing back into the Isho the next turn, or I can even further attack his life using the second Eustass to further trash even more, while still being on perfect curve and establishing a really strong board. Hey guys, I'm not sure why, but at this point the audio just like completely is terrible. So instead I'm just going to turn up the music and let you watch. Let the gameplay speak for itself. I think that I've played it pretty much perfectly, and I would love to hear your thoughts. If you really enjoyed this, please like. I'm leaving this at the end because if you've stayed this long, you're either a person who really enjoys my content or someone who is supporting me from afar, and I'm very, very appreciative of all of the people from both of those camps, and thank you so much. Coming up next, we will have more of the starter decks and maybe a little side project that I'm working on while I have some spare time on my laptop, which is basically going to be a more generic video. So if you're interested in seeing any of that, I look forward to seeing you again soon. Thank you very much. Goodbye.